Hello, everyone. If you could take a seat after we get ready up here. I'd like to call our meeting to order. And our first order of business is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion regarding adopting the agenda? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, vote no. Agenda is adopted. I should mention that for people out there, I'm Stuart Clifton. I am a former member of the commission. I'm serving today on a one-time basis at the request of the mayor because the mayor's representative was out of town and it was deemed important to have as many people as we could for today's agenda. So I'm glad to be back with you. Thanks to the commissioners for your welcoming me. Our second item is the approval of the August 24th, 2017 minutes. Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, vote no. And we have council members present, at least one. Councilmember Walton, would you like to address us?
Thank you, and I apologize. Kevin Roden, I'm Council District 14, that's the Donaldson Hermitage area. I don't have the agenda in front of me, so I apologize. I don't know what the number is on the agenda. It's the Lebanon Road.
6.
Thank you. Number 6. So what's in front of you is a 45-home development. I think everybody in the community likes the development. The issue, and you're going to hear from everyone here in the red shirts, and what you're going to hear tonight is we like the development. It's a great development. You got an entrance and an exit, 2 different ones for that development. The neighborhood that sits right next to it is about 40 to 45 homes. Rivercrest, it's been there for probably 25 years. There's one way in, one way out, and they like it that way. I've got 40, 45 homes, and I've received 38 emails this week from different people that live in the neighborhood saying they don't want the road opened up going into the new neighborhood. For me, I drove over there today and I looked at the end of the road where they were wanting to open it up. The whole neighborhood surrounded by 60-foot trees. They're mature trees. At the end of this road, there are 10, 15 tall, mature trees. So if you open the road up, you're going to be taking out 10 to 15 mature trees and putting what I think the department's recommendation was, putting a gate there, which would totally destroy what these people see as their community. And I understand, because when I got there, I said, I see what they're talking about now. So unless you've really been there, it's hard to see what they mean by opening up this road, what it's going to do. I think the traffic's just part of it. I think you really destroy what they feel like is their little community, their little world, by opening it up to another 40 or 50 houses and having the traffic come through, and then also the trees. So this is not that it's changing anything with the other development, because that's still going to have an entrance and an exit. You'll have 2 there. This is keeping something exactly the way it's been for 25 years. So that's really all you're doing is the developer really doesn't want to put the road in. All the people in the red shirts here don't want the road to go there. And I represent them. And so I don't want the road to go there. And so there's really no reason to put the road in other than there might be an accident on Lebanon Road at the front of the entrance and you need another entrance into the community. It's been this way for 25 years and that's never happened. I mean, so it's kind of, now you're making the decision, are you going to make all these people upset and destroy their community, which they've paid for? Or are you going to say, well, we think it's better to put the gate there and forget them, forget the developer, forget the councilman? That's basically where we are on this. So that's where I am on this. And I think while I understand what the department wanted to do, I think it's better if we just keep this closed off and leave I like the trees there, actually. So they're nice, big trees, pretty trees, and I always hate taking down 60-foot trees, especially about 10 of them. So I thank the commission for hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there other council members? Okay. Thank you. I'd like to ask if the sign could be taken down, because we actually don't. Thank you very much. Does someone have something to say? Okay. All right. Items for deferral withdrawal, if we are ready for those.
Yes, there are several items for deferral, starting with item number 1, case 2016 SP-098-001. This is a request to rezone to a new SP zoning district on property at 910 and 912 North 2nd Street. And the staff recommendation is to defer to the October 12th Planning Commission meeting. Next item is item 2A, case 2017 SP-043-001, a request to rezone from RM20 to SP zoning for property at 7447, 7483, 7487, and 7501 Highway 70 South. Staff recommendation is to defer to the October 26th Planning Commission meeting. The associated case is 2B, case 2017 SP-044-001, a request to rezone from ON to SP zoning on the same properties at Highway 70 South to permit general office, medical office, and personal instruction uses. Staff recommendation is to defer to the October 26th Planning Commission meeting. And the third associated case is 2C, the PUD cancellation for case 94P-025-003. And staff recommendation is to defer to the October 26th Planning Commission meeting. Next item on the deferral list is item 4, case 2017 SP-064-001. This is a request to rezone from RS15 to SP zoning for property at 4927 Buena Vista Pike to permit 54 multifamily residential units. Staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. Next item is item 7, case 2017 S-184-001. This is a request for final plat approval to create 4 lots on property at 3335 Walton Lane. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 28th Planning Commission meeting. Next item is item 8, case 2017 Z-037PR-001, a request to rezone from CS and RS5 to RM20A, MULA, R6A, and RM9A for various properties south of East Trinity Lane. Staff recommendation is to defer to the October 12th Planning Commission meeting. Next item is item 10, case 2017 Z-087PR-001. This is a request to rezone from RS5 to R6A on property located at 1001 West McKinney Avenue. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 28th Planning Commission meeting. Next item is item 13, case 2017 SP-074-001. This is a request to rezone from RS5 to SP zoning on properties located at 1699, 1701, 1703, and 1705 Lishi Avenue. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 28th Planning Commission meeting. Next item is item 16, case 2017 SP-077-001, a request to rezone from R8 to SP zoning on property at 6006 O'Brien Avenue. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 28th Commission meeting. And the last item on the deferral list is item 24, case 2017 Z-096PR-001, a request to rezone from RS5 to MULA zoning on property at 2700 and 2702 Torbett Street. Staff recommendation is to defer to the October 12th Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Bob. So we've heard a list of bills expected to be deferred or withdrawn. If there's anyone in the audience who came expecting these to be heard and would like to be heard about that, let us know now, because we're about to have a motion to defer these en masse. Seeing none, is there a motion regarding this list of deferrals? It's been moved and seconded that we would defer or withdraw these items. All in favor, please vote aye. Aye. Opposed, vote no. They are deferred, and I guess they're all deferred. Let's see. Councilman Withers, I assume you'd rather be heard at the time your matter comes up. Okay, thank you. We now come to consent items.
And before I get to the consent items, as information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. And as noticed to the public, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. So as I read the following items into the record, please raise your hand if you'd like one of these items removed from the consent. Starting with item number 3, case 2017 SP-057-001. This is a request to rezone from Rs10 to SP zoning on property located at Hummingbird Drive to permit 26 multifamily residential units. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Next item is item 5, case 2017 SP-071-001. This is a request to rezone from IR to SP zoning on property located at 905 Cherokee Avenue to permit up to 166 multifamily residential units and 23,700 square feet of non-residential uses. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions, and I will note that Commissioner Gobble is recusing himself on that item. Next item is item 12, case 2017 SP-060-001. This is a request to rezone from AR2A to SP zoning on property located at 1010 Camilla Caldwell Lane to permit up to 40 multifamily residential units. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Next item is item 14, case 2017 SP-075-001. This is a request to rezone from R10 to SP zoning on properties located at Briarville Road and Sharon Road to permit up to 81 multifamily units and non-residential uses. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Next item is item 17, case 2017 SP-082-001. This is a request to rezone from R15 to SP zoning on property located at 7341 Charlotte Pike to permit up to 27 multifamily units with community amenity areas. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Next item's 18A, case 2017 SP-083-001. This is a request to rezone from SCR zoning to SP zoning on property located at Old Hickory Boulevard to permit a self-service storage facility. And staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. And I will note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself on item 18A. The associated case is 18B, case 89P-013-001, a request to cancel a portion of a planned unit development overlay district on property at Old Hickory Boulevard. Staff recommendation is to approve if the associated zone change is approved and disapprove if the associated zone change is not approved. And I will note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself on 18B. Next item, item 19, case 2008 S-061U-12, a request to permit the extension of an approved concept plan for 1 year for the Brentwood Branch Estate subdivision for 8 single-family residential lots at 501 Broadwell Drive and Trousdale Drive. Staff recommendation is to approve the extension of the concept plan approval to February 25th, 2018. Next item is item 20, case 2017 S-207-001. This is a request for concept plan approval to create 17 lots on property located at Old Hickory Boulevard. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Next item is item 21, case 2017 S-211-001. A request for final plat approval to create 2 lots on property located at 1124 Chester Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Next item is item 22, case 133-76P-003. a request to revise the preliminary plan and for final site plan approval for a planned unit development district and a variance from the sidewalk requirements on property located at 5805 Nolensville Pike. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions the revision and final site plan, and a recommendation of approval of the variance request with the condition that a sidewalk with alternative design is constructed as shown on the site plan, and disapprove the request for the variance without the conditions. Next item is item 23, case 2017Z-095PR-001. This is a request to rezone from Rs7.5 to R6 zoning on property at 2608 Old Buena Vista Road. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Next item is item 25 is a contract renewal for Sean Shepard. Staff recommends approval. And the last item is item 29, accept the director's report and approve the administrative items.
Thank you, Bob. Is there anyone here tonight who is opposed to these matters, any of these matters being heard on consent? I've heard no such remarks, so.
I'd like to know my recusal from 22.
22?
Yeah.
In addition to the others?
Yes, sorry about that.
Commissioners, you've heard the report. Is there a motion that we approve, that we approve all consent agenda items listed in addition? Yes. Okay. Is there a second? All those in favor vote aye. Opposed vote no. They are all approved. So Bob, the items that are still remaining to be considered, if you could summarize that for us.
Okay, I have 6, 9, 11A, 11B, and 15.
And 15. Okay. So for folks who are here, for any of those items we've already dealt with, you're welcome to stay, or you could leave at this point. Next item then, under those that we are considering, is number 6. What do we got? Did we just approve one? Did we just approve one that they wanted to speak on?
No.
That was something else.
I'm just saying that there's only 2 people here talking about 11.
Oh.
Item number 6 is a request for a concept plan to create 46 clustered lots on a portion of properties at Lebanon Pike and Walcott Drive on approximately 16.51 acres in the Rs10 zoning district. This development is located on the north side of Lebanon Pike, southwest of Dispain Drive, and east of the Stones River. The parcels contain existing residences towards the front of the site, which are not included in this development. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Rs10, the existing zoning district, requires a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet and is intended for single-family dwellings. A residential PUD is located west of the site that contains 40 single-family homes. East of the site is primarily single-family homes with larger lots, and the surrounding area contains a mixture of residential and non-residential uses. The site is in neighborhood maintenance policy and conservation policy. Conservation policy is located towards the back of the site, identifying areas with steeper slopes and those areas in the floodplain and floodway near the Stones River. The site plan includes 46 clustered lots. Lots are clustered down to the RS5 zoning district and range from approximately 5,300 square feet to 7,500 square feet. There are 8 lots oriented towards Lebanon Pike. You can see them here, and are separated from the road by a common open space. You will notice that front alleys are in front of some of these Lebanon Road lots, these lots here and these lots here. One of staff's conditions is that the front alleys be moved to the rear. with all 8 lots having rear access only. The remaining lots front onto new interior streets, access from Lebanon Road down here, Rivercrest Pass to the west, and Genry Drive to the east. Rivercrest Pass is an existing stub road to the Rivercrest PUD to the west, and it will be used for emergency access only. Emergency access means likely a gated entrance only to be used by emergency vehicles, should the other entrances be blocked for any other reason. Daily traffic would not be permitted through this entrance. The site is located in a National Register eligible neighborhood that extends from the subject properties, which are located here, to the east, generally near Dania Crest Drive, where the preservation of historic resources is a goal of the neighborhood. Planning consulted with the Metro Historical Commission, and the setting around the homes was discussed as one of the important elements that contributes to the historical context. The characteristics of these properties include 1 and 1.5 story homes with large lots and deep front yards, where the setting is uniquely defined by the large front setbacks and natural setting in front of the homes. That is what planning acknowledged in our approach to this project. Though the eligible structures will not be retained, the site plan accommodates for a large open space in the front of the site, consistent with the surrounding historical context. Open space A, which is located near the western property line, generally aligns with the open space provided in the adjacent Rivercrest PUD here. Open space B is a larger open space that increases in depth towards the eastern property line, and it increases in depth the most for these 2 easternmost lots that are closest to the existing residents at Lebanon and Despain Drive. The size of the open space purposefully increases from west to east to respect the unique character east of the site, which is defined by those larger front yards. A third open space C, is located at the back of the site and contains steeper slopes. There are areas in the floodplain and floodway at the very back of the site near the Stones River, but these areas are not included in the development. This slide shows the existing site and captures the large front yards, which is a predominant feature as you move east down Lebanon Pike. These slides here capture the view if you're on the street on Lebanon and you're looking directly at the site, moving east towards Despain Drive. One of the goals was to maintain this natural setting in the front of the homes to blend in with the surrounding area. You can see here that there is a lot of existing mature tree canopy, and retaining the native site conditions, including the retention of mature trees, contributes to the fabric of this NRE district. And so by increasing the open space in front and preserving the open space in its natural state, it helps to respect the overall character of the surrounding area. You can really get a feel here for the importance of the setting and the importance of incorporating these features into the development plan. The proposal is consistent with the cluster lot standards in the zoning codes. This is the original site plan that was presented to staff. It included 48 lots with that were much closer to Lebanon Pike, and none of these lots fronted on the road. So in other words, all of these lots here were oriented towards the new internal road here, and the backs of the lots were fronting Lebanon. And you can see that the lots came pretty much up to the road here, and there wasn't any open space up here. So at staff's request, the layout was modified by shifting the lots to the back and reorienting the lots towards Lebanon Pike, as well as increasing the size of the open space on site. This resulted in a reduction in the number of lots from 48 to 46. The revised plan provides an appropriate transition to the surrounding neighborhood, and it retains some of the open space elements and setting of the existing development pattern, and it also provides for more street connectivity by connecting to Despain Drive to the east here. Therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions.
Thank you, Abby. So we're now ready to hear this, and as our process is, we hear from the proponent, and the proponent of this proposal is given 10 minutes to present it, and then we hear from other folks, and then opponents. So would you come forward if you're ready to talk about this proposal? And identify yourself, and you have 10 minutes as the representative of the proponent.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Ryan Lovelace with Civil Site Design Group. We're the engineers and land planners on the project. I think Abby explained it well. We've been in this process for a long time. We submitted this back in the spring. So we've been working on this for almost 6 months now to get to this point. I think we've come a long ways. This plan has evolved. Our original plan was a 51 lot layout, and with respect to the Historic Commission and to planning staff and everybody, this plan has evolved over a 6-month process. And I mean, it's a great looking plan right now. We've, like Abby has said, we've pulled these off Lebanon Road. It's a transition from a front setback standpoint on the homes that are facing Lebanon Road, that were closer to Lebanon Road on the left side, the west side, and we transition and step back as we move west to east to the historic home that's off the property, off this sheet to the right. We have worked for a long time to get to this point today, and right now we have 46 lots. Again, the ones on Lebanon Road are facing Lebanon Road. They're going to be alley or side entry for the corner lots. That's one of staff's comments that we agreed to. We have a nice passive amenity center in the front, some trails and some benches along the front. Like staff's comment says, there's some nice trees there that we're maintaining. We also have columns. If you look on our plan at the northern part of the upper part of our sheet, there's the proposed columns and fencing, which is similar to the antebellum house across the street. As the councilman has asked us to do, we've agreed. We're extending that fencing from property line to property line along our frontage of Lebanon Road. We had a neighborhood meeting probably a month ago now at the request of the councilman, and I think it was a good meeting. And we showed them our house plans. We showed them what we're proposing. We showed them the layout. And it seemed to me that it was well received. And I think you'll hear tonight, the majority of people here are, the number one thing we talked about was that stub road on the left side of the plan, which is the west side. We have two connections. We have a connection to Lebanon Road, and we have a connection to Despain Drive, which is on the right side of this plan. So we have our two connections for emergency purposes. We know why staff has asked us to put that connection there on the west side of this plan, the one that these neighbors are going to talk about tonight. We know why they've asked for that. That's good planning. There's no doubt about it. But again, we don't need it from an emergency standpoint. We have two accesses, so it's really a thought process for the folks next to us and these folks tonight. Frankly, we lost a lot to put that road in. If you, as a planning commission, do not want it, we're fine with that. If you do want it, we're fine with that too. We agree with all staff comments tonight and all their conditions. But it seems the neighborhood around us appreciated what we're proposing from a home standpoint and a layout standpoint. A lot of open space here. So again, I think the discussion tonight will be about that stub road to the west. We're indifferent about it, but we also understand that it needs to be there from a planning standpoint. But we just ask for your approval, and we agree with all staff conditions, and just ask for your approval tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions too. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Are there others here in support of this proposal? Councilman, Councilman Stanley, you're speaking in support
Yes, I am.
of the proposal.
I am. My name is James Bruce Stanley. I'm here from the Donaldson Hermitage Neighborhood Association. I'm with the Board of Directors.
Okay.
Also live at 3211 Down Mid Court in Stanford Estates, directly to the east of this proposed
Let me stop you for
development.
1 second. So as a representative of an organized group, you have 5 minutes as opposed to the 2
Okay.
to speak.
I
And
appreciate
others
that.
will be able to speak for 2. Thank you.
Each of you has a informational sheet that I submitted. I would like to really go through that if I could. One of the things I want everyone to understand is the fact that these 3 homes on this property are part of the 18-home millionaire row that represented the most well-established single-family subdivision in Davidson County, and it still does. It was built from 1899 to 1945. The 3 homes that are in existence right now are well-maintained. Unlike Rivercrest, I was a councilman in 1998 when Rivercrest, I worked with the developers and with the other people in Millionaire Row to get Rivercrest PUD overlay passed. But Rivercrest had a home on it from Millionaire Row that was built in 1923, but 60% of its, it was in an extreme state of disrepair. 60% of its roof had collapsed. So the developer said they had no reason to renovate that house and make it a part of this Rivercrest PUD. But these homes, these 3 homes in this subdivision are well maintained. I am familiar with the title holders of the 3 homes. I went to church for years and years with the Jacksons that lived in one of the homes. These homes at 2942 is 89 years old as of this summer. 2946 is 92 years old, and 3000 Lebanon Pike is 92 years old. I would like to see all 3 homes maintained and made a part of this subdivision. I'm not opposed to any of these properties developing. I think that it's a benefit for it to develop. But I think also we do not need to turn our backs on the history that has provided substantial benefits for the community. And Millionaire Row was built by the Stanfords back in 1899, 1945. The home at 2942 Lebanon Pike is 2,225 square feet in size, and its appraised value is $261,300. The home at 2946 is 1,982 square feet in size, and it's $191,300 of appraised value. And the house at 3,000 is 1,986 square feet in size, and it's worth an appraised value of $203,000. There have only been 2 homes in Millionaire Row that have been demolished, and that was due to their state of disrepair. One was Rivercrest, and one was the home at 3008 Lebanon Pike. It was demolished because of its state of disrepair, but it now only has 1 home on that lot. That's Grigger subdivision. I want to show you some aerial photographs. I'm very familiar with this area. These are the 3 homes, 3 Millionaire Row homes on the acreage that will be used for the subdivision. Also have Millionaire Row homes that were made a part of different subdivisions or different developments, and they were maintained as such. One was Emmanuel Church of Christ. It was built in 1988. One was Donaldson Cumberland Presbyterian Church. It was built in 1970. And one was at Wellington Square, single-family subdivision. It's an 8-home subdivision, but the homes are worth $358,487 on average of appraised value. And I supported that. I did not support the 26 condominiums they were wanting to put on that. But one of the things that they did was they maintained that house in Wellington Square, and it's been a benefit. And I think by maintaining these historical homes on this site, it will benefit the subdivision, developers, the city, and the surrounding community as well.
Thank you very much. Are there others here to speak in support of this proposal? I think there are probably people here to speak in opposition. And if you would come forward and give us your comments, just come down to this center aisle, and each of you will have 2 minutes to speak. Do we know that any of them are speaking on behalf of another group? Okay. Which I know is not long, but sometimes we just have to let other people make the points we meant to make. So if you would start us out and give us your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Rs10 Thompson. My address is 612 Rivercrest Way. I'm one of a bunch of people in opposition. And those, I would like to just ask for those members who are in opposition, please stand.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to talk about the new subdivision that's going on there, and I want to talk about how Donaldson itself and this community. Donaldson is a community of smaller neighborhoods with neighborhoods that are one-way in and one-way out communities. If you open your package, there should be a map in there that kind of outlines some of the one-way in, one-way outs. Is that in the packet at all?
It's in the public comment.
Okay. I can pass around if it doesn't matter. You'll notice on the maps that there are homes that are all one way in, one way out. There's a Rivercrest subdivision, which is our subdivision, which is east of the plan there. It's 40 homes, single-family homes, built in 1996 and 1998, and we have no connecting road, one way in, one way out. Next to us, there's a Riverstone condominiums. They are 53 units, and they were built in 1997, and they have no connection, one way in, one way out. There's Gill Court. There are 22 lots with single-family homes, 6 duplexes, and the houses are around 1970. Wellington Square, Benson Road, River Point Pass, Cliftondale Road and Crestwood Road, Donaldson Road, Donaldson Wood Road, Spring Place Drive. All of them are neighborhoods that are one way in, one way out. And that's just a small portion of Donaldson area. There are much greater areas. If I zoomed out and did this of Metro Nashville, there would be a lot greater areas that are one way in, one way out. I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I'm John Cranshaw, and I live at 716 Rivercrest. I live on the house that's right next to the fence where the street would go through. I purchased a house in 2006, so I've been there over 10 years. There is a tree canopy there. Our subdivision has been very quiet, free of crime. We have a wonderful group of people that have looked out for our children, and putting a road at that point is going to be a disaster to Rivercrest subdivision. I put it in your hands because if one child or one adult gets run over by a car because of a traffic jam on Lebanon Road and everybody's speeding through this other subdivision that has 2 outlets, what's going to happen to our children? If you look at the signs at my grandchildren, if you look at the signs in there, we ask people to drive like it's your children on the street. So I'm asking from you guys to think about where you live. And I bought this house because I retired early, and I like the quietness of that back lot, and I enjoy it. And I don't want to see it destroyed by putting this road in. They have 2 entrances. I'm all for the subdivision and we'll support it, but they have 2 entrances. I've lived there for 10 years, and we've survived with our 1 entrance, and we've had emergencies. We've had people that needed ambulance service, and they were taken care of. Never did we have anybody that wasn't. So I ask all of you to consider this very carefully as we move forward with this project, and to not let this road be put through, to leave it as is. It certainly would benefit our community and all of the people that are here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Duncan, and I like my neighborhood. It is already good. I don't want you to connect it to another neighborhood because it will be too dangerous for me to ride my bike. There is a curb on my friend's driveway, and me and my cousin like to go down the curb. If you build the road, it will be too dangerous for me to ride on the curb. I would be very happy if you don't make the neighborhood attached to ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scarlett, and if you built your road by removing my neighborhood's fence, it will be too dangerous for me to ride my bike and even for the other kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I belong with those two. Listen, we live right on Rivercrest Pass. So
I need to ask you to give your name.
My name is
address.
Samantha. What was that?
What's the name and address for
My name is Samantha Nelson. I'm at 717 Rivercrest
Thank you.
Pass. So this road directly affects us. As you heard from my kids, we would not be able to ride our bikes because there would be 3 ways of directions that cars would be coming. And where we are, we've got a little hill in our neighborhood at the entrance to our neighborhood, which creates a blind spot for our kids. So the dead end where our fence is for our neighborhood is the only safe area of road that my kids can ride their bikes. So you would be changing the very essence of our neighborhood, the very character of our neighborhood. And I'm asking, respectfully, please don't do that, because we bought this house about 2 years ago for the reason of it being one way in, one way out. We liked that idea. It was safer for our kids that way. We have not had a problem with the one way out, the one way in. Lebanon Pike just went through a massive road reconstruction, and they came through and it was blocking traffic on Lebanon Pike right where our entrance was. And even with the blockade that was out front on Lebanon Pike as they were resurfacing the road, there was no problem with our neighborhood. We could get in and out, so the one way in, one way out is not a problem for us. And as was stated before, there are many other neighborhoods that have that, and we are all functioning just fine.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angus Nelson. I also belong with those other 3 at 717 Rivercrest Pass. How are you guys?
Great.
God bless you. So the irony here is I think we're in the wrong line. You've called us up here for opposition, but we're actually here in support. We're just not in support of one particular facet. So we probably could have come with Ryan and been very supportive of what's going on here. We do know that the question here isn't a road that actually goes through. We do understand and we are knowledgeable of the fact that they are trying to put a crash gate, but we're not naive either. We also know other neighborhoods that have put a crash gate and then a few years later the crash gate disappeared. So we're trying to be very proactive into protecting our family. And we're trying to take a stance to protect what we know and love and cherish, and that's our kids. And at the end of the day, we really embrace everything that's going on in Nashville. We understand the growth. We're not naive. We're super ecstatic. We also know our property values are going to increase. We're ecstatic. We're not stupid. We're completely on top of that. We just want to protect our kids, and we ask you to do the same. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tara Thompson. I live at 612 Rivercrest Way. I'm the wife of Ron Thompson. I want to reference Nashville Next Plan. The Rivercrest community is one of those amenities. The Nashville Next Plan speaks to protecting and enhancing the character of different parts of Davidson County. A quote from Nashville Next says, "Since the area continued to grow, the challenge is to ensure that growth takes place in in a way that minimizes negative impacts on the natural environment and open spaces networks." So with that quote and really supporting the Nashville Next Plan, I hope that you guys really take in consideration our opposing the road through our neighborhood. And also, just on a personal note, part of our family, we own a 175-pound Great Dane. I will say he's polka dotted and very attractive. We do not walk on Lebanon Road because many, many times people drive off of Lebanon Road to stop to take pictures of him. I don't think we can handle 40 to 80 more people taking pictures of him through that one protected road, So that's just a personal story that I don't think my neighbors would like to see, a jam-packed road as well, trying to take pictures of our Great Dane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Steckel. I live at 525 Rivercrest Code. I live in Rivercrest for the last 19 years out of my 32 years in Donaldson. I'm also a real estate broker for 33 years here in Nashville. I'm aware that when Rivercrest community was approved, that future access is designed when expansion takes place, if no other access may be available. We have successfully lived with only one access in the Rivercrest for 20 years, and having no other access, Rivercrest will not improve but hinder the quality of life in Rivercrest. And we have not had any challenges with emergency vehicles accessing our community since day one. Will the property values be affected? I believe the values would improve with only one road into Rivercrest, as this allows for much safer roads for families along with a safer community, as home break-ins are less attracted to a non-pass-through community, as one example. There will be two access roads into the new community. What is the benefit of adding a third access road? The entire 40 families in Rivercrest oppose this connection road. Does this not tell you what is best for the families that live in our Davidson County? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing Louise Giussini, her daughter Ava, age 11, and Kate, age 9. Louise cannot attend because she has to work, and the two girls are at school. My name is Cairns, Jimmy Cairns, and at the moment I live with Louise at 505 Rivercrest Cove. Louise has written to some of the council members. I have some extracts from her letter here that I'd like to address to you. I am opposed to Rivercrest Pass being opened up and the entrance to the Rivercrest community being used to access the new subdivision. I am opposed to the subdivisions connecting. I am opposed to this as the Rivercrest has been a diverse, safe community for almost 20 years. There's a strong sense of community among the current residents. The increased traffic will be very dangerous to all our children. Drivers of the vehicles of all shapes and sizes will invariably be using Rivercrest Pass as a shortcut. I am very concerned as for my two granddaughters and their friends who play outside, ride bikes safely on the streets, the community and many young children who play outside. There will no longer be that sense of safety, security that we currently have. Right now, everyone watches out for each other's kids, and the only cars usually in the subdivision are those who live here. There will be extra traffic, and this will cut through the subdivision to avoid a couple of sets of traffic lights going to Donaldson Christian School in the mornings and evenings. This will be heavy and fast-moving traffic. Extending Rivercrest Pass as a means to the access a new subdivision. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm William Hart. I live at 601 Rivercrest Way, and I'm an elected member of the Rivercrest Homeowners Association Board of Directors. I reiterate what all my fellow homeowners have said, so I want to focus on a couple of aspects of the staff's recommendations that would seem to ameliorate our concerns, but they really don't. There is a single sentence in condition number 4 of the staff report, which reads, "The western connection to Rivercrest Pass shall be provided for emergency access only." It is also referenced in the last sentence of the planning staff's analysis section, which reads, "The revised plan provides an appropriate transition to the surrounding neighborhood," end quote. Well, Rivercrest is that surrounding neighborhood, and we could not disagree more as to the propriety of that. What this amounts to is a forcible perforation of our community boundary. It's unwelcome, it's unwarranted, and it's simply unnecessary. As noted in their report, the T3NM designation Rivercrest enjoys is intended to preserve the general character of this developed suburban residential neighborhood. Extending the pass, Rivercrest Pass, will destroy the very thing that gives this thriving, culturally, and as you've seen, ethnically diverse community its unique character. Limited access is what allowed the character to blossom over time, and continued limited access is what will preserve it. So what we're asking is for this commission to invoke their authority under section 11.504 that says that you can actually eliminate the condition. You don't have to simply accept the planning department's recommendation. You can close that because we don't want it open for emergency purposes either. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joan Green. I live at 712 Rivercrest Pass. And frankly, I'm a little nervous because you're going to be making a decision that's going to affect probably about 100 or more people's lives. I purchased my home about 2 years ago. I saw it as my last home. I looked carefully all over Nashville. I lived over by Belmont University, but I wanted a quiet neighborhood. I bought my house because it had one area in and one area out. And as I go, I'll tell you why. I'm opposed to extending Rivercrest Pass, putting up a crash gate, pavers, anything. Just want you to leave our neighborhood. There are beautiful, very old trees at the back where that road would go through, and they discussed the need to keep the trees out on Lebanon Road. We would really like to keep our trees too. So I want to tell you why I'm so passionate about this. Years ago, I lived in a neighborhood very similar to Rivercrest Pass. And a new development was built, and one of our roads was extended with a crash gate. About 2 years after the crash gate went up, one day the city came out and they took it away. No hearings, no anything. A few months after that, I was riding my bicycle one evening or one afternoon, and I was hit by a semi-truck that passed through our neighborhood. Because if you open it up, not only will cars be able to come through, semi-trucks can come through. I was hit, my bicycle was ruined. I was thrown head first, luckily into a neighbor's yard. I landed on my leg and ankle. My ankle was broken. And I am very worried about the children of our neighborhood. There are at least 6 or 8 children right across the street from me that are constantly playing in that road. So I ask you, please think about what you would do in your own neighborhood if you lived there. Thank you.
It's our policy to let applicant give rebuttal if that's deemed necessary by the applicant. Do you care to? Okay. So I declare the public hearing closed, and it's now our task to discuss this matter. Ask questions, make comments as you will. I'm thinking we'll start with Berkeley Allen, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I want to go back to the staff's recommendation for this emergency entrance in the first place. Clearly, there's general support for the project in general, and it all seems to hinge on the emergency entrance. So is that a deal breaker? Is that something we can negotiate on here?
So originally when we looked at the connections, we did want to see a full connection for probably two main reasons. One, when we looked at the original Rivercrest plan, there was a road there that was shown on the plan, and so the connection was intended when the original plan was done. And also for planning principles for connectivity, we just, as a planning department, that is a value that we have. But we also heard from a number of residents their concerns and that they felt that it was inappropriate and it didn't meet the character of their neighborhoods, and we heard that very clearly. So we stepped back and looked at the broader circulation network and tried to make a determination about whether or not a full connection would be needed to support broader transportation and circulation goals. And oftentimes a connection is really important for that reason. But in this instance, we determined that it wasn't absolutely required. Now, the one issue then became one of health safety, which I think you've heard some folks refer to here. Today, generally from a fire traffic sort of safety perspective, homes that have, or developments that have more than 30 residences, we like to see 2 access points. That is because, and so that would really be for Rivercrest, which has 40 homes there. And so when we looked at this, the intent behind the traffic or the gate would be that if for any reason the single access point was blocked off of Lebanon Pike, that there would be another way to get in for a ambulance or fire truck or what have you. I think it's really comes down to risk. I think you've heard some of the residents say we've lived here for 20 years and we've been fine. And so I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say that under any circumstance where there was an emergency, a second access would or would not make a difference from a life safety perspective. But that was our intention, and the intention is certainly not to open it up to through traffic or to trucks or to cars. It really is in the event that you have a block at Lebanon Pike, that there's another way in for an ambulance or for a fire truck, and that's really based on fire safety standards that we have today.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And then I guess another question for somebody, maybe the owner. If it were decided that truly were not necessarily needed and it didn't need to be there, does that mean one more house comes in or nothing happens, or is there a contingency plan for that?
I think if you were to determine today that would be closed, then I think we would take another look at the site plan and try to make a determination. But there is a maximum number of units that would be allowed, and so we would be sticking to that.
So they're stuck with that.
But there could be, I could imagine some adjustments.
If I could just jump in for a second, I think they'd have to amend the plat for the existing community now, because you'd end up with a dead end. So they would need to have some sort of turnaround, emergency turnaround at the end of that, or I'm not sure of the distance of it. It may be short enough distance for that, what would be a dead end. The Rivercrest Pass, depending on the distance there, you might have to do a turnaround at the end, and if you did that, then you'd need to amend the 2 lots that I see that are already shown on the plat. But it may be that that's a short enough distance between where Rivercrest passed and the other road goes to the north, that the fire marshal might not require that. It might allow you to just have those 2 lots as buildable lots. But we'd have to understand the measurement of that road as it became a dead end and it was built out.
So you're talking about the road. I mean, I guess what I'm looking at is Road B just doesn't have a T off of it, and it just keeps on, so that there is no little piece of road there even. Is that? Okay.
Right. So you see where Rivercrest Pass is as it goes to the east and ends in this subdivision? And you'll note that just to the north of that, there are at least 2 lots that are shown on what appears to be a superimposed plat for that subdivision. And what my point is if you connect it all the way through, even I think with the crash gate, the fire marshal would probably allow you to just build out those lots as they're shown on the subdivision today. But if you didn't, depending on the actual length between where the road to the north tees into Rivercrest Pass, the distance from there up to the end of it may not be too far that they might not require you to do a turnaround at the end.
Okay.
It may be a short enough distance that they're comfortable backing a fire truck back out of there without having to have a turnaround at the end.
Right. So I guess what I'm looking at is you come in Road B and you've got a whole circle, Road B, Jenny Drive, and then Road A to get back out again. So is there a turnaround required then?
Well, that's a loop. So,
Loop, yeah.
There's not a turnaround required.
Cool. Does a loop work? Then you don't need a turnaround?
Yes.
Okay.
The idea is how do you get a large fire truck back out of a place once you've driven in?
Right. Yeah. So I guess I'm saying if that Rivercrest Pass extension simply does not get built in Road B.
Then if that doesn't get built at all, if the commission decides that can we go back to that?
Oops.
I'm sorry, can you go back to where we were just discussing?
That one.
The 77, slide 77.
Right.
Okay, so what I would suspect would happen is if the commission decided to approve the new subdivision plat without the Rivercrest Pass connection at all, then we would probably have the developer submit at final a new plat that had the lots, looks like 38 and 39, just squared up without that right-of-way extension in it.
Okay, that's helpful to
That'd
know.
probably be the simplest way to amend it so that it didn't have that pass.
Thank you. Okay, that's helpful. And then on a totally different tact, just to respond to the council members' request about maintaining the three existing homes. Commissioner Sims and I were sort of looking at the orientation and location of those. It looks like they are sort of maybe sideways to the new roads that are going in. Is that a possibility for any kind of discussion?
So when we started this, to evaluate this proposal, one of the first things we did was sit down with staff at the Historic Commission to try to better understand what the resources were and what our options were. And we actually asked the developer to take a look at what kind of plan they could do to keep the homes, and we actually looked at that with them. I think it would have been a bit awkward because some of the newer homes would actually have been closer to Lebanon Pike. And so the trade-off there would be that we would lose some of the open space character that what we heard from the historic staff is actually really important. So when we consulted with them, our understanding is that the setting, these large lawns, is one of the priorities. And so if you were to keep the homes, I think the scenarios that we looked at would have degraded that setting in such a way that from a trade-off perspective, we ended up feeling like this approach actually gave a better nod to the urban design quality that's there today. But we certainly looked at it. We don't like to see historic homes come down if they have quality and integrity, and we like to see creative ideas for how to keep them. I think in this instance, they would have lost many lots and in addition to the historic resources, so we were comfortable with this approach. But I agree with you. We would have liked to have seen that.
Great. Okay. Well, I appreciate knowing there was a good discussion. And then just to help me understand, there's a neighborhood landmark overlay somewhere, or these are just historic register eligible, or what is their designation?
Are you referring to the letter that you got, or
I guess just the reference to historic character. I guess it says the site is located in National Register eligible neighborhood. So that's as far as their historic designation goes. They don't have an overlay or anything.
There's
like
no local overlay. It's not in a local historic district. It's an eligible district.
Just eligible. Okay. Okay, those were my questions. I appreciate saving trees, so if the neighbors are only opposed because of this road, which does not seem to be necessary for this subdivision, and they seem to have survived without the road, I would prefer two preserve trees. So that's kind of my opinion so far. I'll listen to what the rest of the commissioners have to say.
Commissioner Sims.
There, look, that's the hard thing, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the neighborhood. It's, in this time and the growth patterns and the pace of growth in Nashville, there is nothing like hearing firsthand from the people that actually live there. And I think you are the experts in so many ways of what a community needs. So if you say it doesn't need a road, our safety regulations say it's okay not to have it, then I think we need to listen to you. I am a little concerned about these historic registry eligible homes because it feels like we're all or nothing. And is there a compromise somewhere between losing them all or keeping one of them? Because I think they have created a pretty strong case here for the Millionaire Row. And in some ways, if the developer could work to even preserve one of the homes, I think it brings some real value to that kind of neighborhood, and they're growing, I think they're growing interest in probably pursuing a national register at some point. So that would be my 2 cents worth at this point. But I very much appreciate the reports and the neighborhood showing up, and particularly the council person showing up to voice his support. So.
Commissioner Haynes.
As a developer, we always look for connectivity on future projects, and I think this proposed project has the connectivity to the east. I think the neighborhood's made a very strong case of why not to have connectivity to the west. They've bought their homes without the connectivity. It seems to me to be reasonably safe without it, and so I would be in favor of not having the stub road to the east.
Yeah, I too feel like the access road is strictly to help something that they don't feel, it doesn't necessarily need to be done. They actually have their second means, so I'm definitely in support of no, that secondary road. But I am with Commissioner Sims and Commissioner Councilman Allen about the historic homes. So what was the actual historic recommendation?
So we consulted with them as we do with subdivisions and tried, and anytime we have eligible resources. And what we heard from them is that the setting is a key goal and a key priority, as opposed to the architectural features themselves. We don't have a written recommendation from them, but we sat down with them and the development team several times to talk through what some of the issues are. So I think that this approach, it feels imperfect from a preservation resources perspective. We did look at a couple of different alternatives to keep one home or to keep several homes, and I think, again, the dilemma was really if you build homes around the historic, if you keep the historic homes and you put additional houses on Lebanon, you lose some of the setting that historic staff expressed to us was so important. And so it became a difficult trade-off, as it often is in planning situations. And so I think they'd love to have seen the homes kept, but understood that this approach retained the setting and was something that was valuable.
When we do have an NRE, is there any way we could get their recommendation on record to, like we have for the, water services and everything, just for when we have their eligible, it'd be good to have their recommendation on record for it, just for that. Because it does seem like losing this whole inventory of houses. I'm kind of with Commissioner Sims. Even one, I think, would be important because although you lose lawns, you're losing, whichever house, we'll just pick the oldest, of course, a 1925 house, almost 100 years old home, and this whole area, and I don't know if it's really called Millionaire Row, but it sounds good, so we're losing more and more of this inventory, so, it would have, for me, that, and of course this is just me, but that would be more important than losing, having some lawns, we're losing a home. So that's why I would like to have just kind of heard a little bit more. And not that I need to see all the different ideas for it, but I do like to see the encouragement of when you have a home like this and you have, 3, and you are not, the context of it is important. So, and now they're gone, and apparently I haven't driven past it, so I don't know if they've been maintained, but, one person's shaking, one person's not, and so I don't know of how their maintainability is, but if they are in good condition, I hate to see them go away. So anyway, that's my concern with this development is, the deletion of all 3 of these homes.
Well, one thing I would say that gave us, reassurance is not the right word, but helped us understand the boundaries for us in terms of moving forward is that they're eligible. There are different, categories of protection for historic resources. And so I think that, unfortunately, this one acknowledges that resources are here, but it's not the highest level of protection. But I absolutely understand your concern, and we try every time that we see a historic resource to try to figure out creative ways to keep them. So I accept.
It's not in one of our OA districts, so we don't have, jurisdiction over it, but, still it's, we're just losing more of that inventory.
Commissioner Goebel? Well, I'd like to underline what Commissioner Tibbs said about the historic structures. We hate to lose those. I do know what the historic site, I'm familiar with the property out here, and I do know what the historic relevance of that front yard. And it is a unique situation where you have that large front yard. The houses are not that large, and they're kind of hard to see, actually, from the street. I do, to some degree, we're here after, trying to close the door after the house, after the horses are out. It's a tough thing on that aspect of it. And I am sympathetic to that aspect, would like to see better, but I don't know what else we can do. On the connectivity issue, this has come up a couple of times since I've been in the few months I've been on the commission, and it would probably be good if we could kind of have a conversation with the fire department and others to understand that a little bit better. Nashville is full of dead-end streets, and is this a real problem or is it not? I am very sympathetic to the neighborhood on one account, because they have an established neighborhood, they're comfortable with it, they've had 20 years without issues. It was always intended to be connected. That's why it was there, so I'm not that sympathetic, but on that aspect of it. But, I understand the neighborhood, I understand the concerns, and kind of inclined to go along with the neighborhood since it's such a majority of that, but I'll listen.
Commissioner Blacksher, you're next. I'm just waiting. Having you wait for a minute.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the connectivity issue too. I obviously support the neighborhood and want them to continue to live in the neighborhood that they expected to live in when they purchased their homes. It does seem to be, maybe just in my opinion, unsafe to have just one entrance and one exit for that many homes. What did you say that if this subdivision was built today with this many homes, they would require 2? Is that right?
Typically, we like to see 2 access points for residential homes, units over 30 homes. That would be the standard.
Would it be a requirement today for them to have 2, or is it just kind of it's better to have 2?
So the fire department looks at that, and they would be the ones to make that determination, so I don't want to speak for them. Sometimes what we will see is that they will require 2 access points for more than 30 units, or they will require sprinkling or other types of things. So they will look at each property and each development type, and they'll look at the width of the access points and some other things to make that determination. But generally speaking, we look at 2 access points for developments over 30, single-family developments over 30.
So there's a
So the fire marshal will allow for modifications to the fire code if there are other life safety features that are added to compensate for that modification, and that's really what Lucy's talking about with the sprinkling of the homes. That if you're going to allow just one access point, then they would require the sprinkling.
So I'm assuming the fire department has not made an assessment like that at this subdivision?
What was the recommendation from the fire marshal?
So the fire marshal would have only looked at what's proposed.
Right.
And so this one has several access points. So they're recommending approval with conditions. We did consult with them about this western point and what they would want to see if you were to entertain the security gate. And they basically said we would work with you. We'd probably require a narrower depth for the street and things like that. But they're responding to this particular proposal, which has enough access points.
So if we decided that this new subdivision did not warrant the extension of Rivercrest Pass because it already has 2 access points, are we forever foreclosing the ability of Rivercrest Pass being extended, depending on, maybe something does happen, like an emergency? I'm not wishing it obviously on the subdivision, but if something were to happen where the Rivercrest Pass would want to be extended, is that going to be forever foreclosed?
Yes. Yes, because, short of the removal of anything that's built in that space, which there probably will be something built in space, and then a later dedication of right-of-way that would probably entail about 4 property owners.
Yeah.
Theoretically, it could happen. Realistically, yes, I would say you're foreclosing that connection.
Well, I guess, maybe it doesn't make that much sense. I know the developer probably wouldn't want it to happen where this western side remains the same as far as the Rivercrest Pass ability to be extended, and then just leave the current neighborhood trees intact. So it's not actually extended, but it could be extended one day, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is to continue to show it as a dedication of right-of-way on the plat to match up with what I presume is a dedicated right-of-way in Rivercrest. You could do that. You could approve it and just not build it. We have a number of subdivisions around town that have those sort of undeveloped, unbuilt right-of-ways.
Yeah, I think I would be more in favor of that. I think it addresses the neighbors' concerns about keeping their trees and the area safe for children to play and people to walk their Great Danes. But it doesn't forever foreclose the ability of this thing being extended, because perhaps one day we will think that it does need to be extended, and you don't want to not have that ability to do it in the future.
So are you ready to word your thoughts into a motion? Since
That is my motion.
Your motion is to approve, but to state your motion.
My motion is to approve the development, and with the conditions, except that the condition as it relates to the Rivercrest Pass is that it doesn't need to be extended into the Rivercrest subdivision currently, but that the right-of-way still gets dedicated.
Right. And the effect of that would be that there was not a crash gate.
Right.
Well, just so to be completely clear, not only would there not be a crash gate, but there wouldn't be a road built. Right. It would just be dedicated right away for future reservation should the community decide they want it at a later date.
Right.
Or the fire marshal got something through or whatever.
I'll second it.
Okay, you've heard the motion. It's been seconded. Is there discussion? Pearl?
We still have an open question about the historic homes, I think. There were 2 issues here. One had to do with the street, and then the second had to do with the demolition of all 3 historic homes.
Right.
And the motion that's getting ready to be made won't include anything.
No, it won't, but that's the motion before us. To deal with that, you would either have to vote that one down or amend that motion or something. Okay.
Who needs to amend
I'm not sure. I mean,
Yeah, if I can interject. So we've had a motion, and did we have a second before we moved on to the discussion? Okay. Right, it would be best if the person that made the motion amended it.
I'm open for suggestions as to how to amend it.
I will say this, that what you're talking about is a redesign of the entire subdivision. So it'd be, in effect, a disapproval is what we're discussing at this point, is a disapproval of the plan as presented.
I have, well, let's see, I'll make a comment here. There's a pending motion and a second. I've worked a long time trying to think of ways in which we could enhance historic protection. We live in a society which very correctly, I believe, does pay a lot of attention to property rights. And we do not use the power of the state to mandate certain things, even though we'd like to sometimes. And we do not normally push a historic preservation onto a property when the owners are not for it and none of the affected people are for it. I have a lot of complete belief, knowing that area a little bit, that those lawns on Lebanon Pike are a big deal, a bigger deal than maybe you would think. But it's what people think of. It's very important. But I don't know, to me, as much as, I mean, I've served on the Historic Zoning Commission. I wish we had more tools that would sort of merge owner interest and neighborhood interest in historic preservation. Need more of those. But this is, I think, a little late in the game for this. That's just my thought. So I would be more inclined to support the original motion.
Well, while we're discussing then, and I understand, but I do have to make that point that we do have to, it is an easy thing that always happens, that the historic property, you know, there's sometimes it's, if we're not speaking out against it, they will be gone, and once they're gone, they're just history. So maybe, I guess not to, I would like to see, if I had seen really historic commission and they came back and said, look, in this case, we'd prefer you kept the lawn over the property, I'd feel a lot more comfortable supporting it. But, you know, I don't see that, and I'd be surprised to see it, honestly, but that doesn't mean that that's the case at all. But, you know, it's, maybe if I would have seen the proposal to keep the house and it was just a mess, you know, maybe I'd feel differently, but you know, it's just always happens, you know, there's a old property in the way, so it's got to go. So that's my personal feeling about it, but you guys know my background, so that's gonna probably always be my feeling, but it's, you know, I have to make that point. So that's my issue with it.
Yeah, let me speak to this. Listening to Lucy, it seems to me that staff has done a really good job of asking the developer to shift houses away from Lebanon Road in response to historical's feedback that the lawns were important. So the historical didn't actually come out and put it in writing, and yet the plan that's reflected on the screen is in response to that. So I think they've done that.
Yeah, they did it. But it still is hard to see a property being okay to go as opposed to it, but I have to just go on that word for sure.
Yeah.
But I still don't feel comfortable supporting it.
Let me ask our staff, our normal procedure in something like this where there is any hint of historic possibilities is to ask the Historic Zoning Commission what their recommendations are. And in this instance, they said what? They said nothing about preserving the structures, but a lot about Lebanon Road. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we did consult with the Historic Zoning Commission staff, and we worked with them to try to come up with an alternative that would preserve the character as much as possible by having the houses set back from Lebanon Pike. But when it comes down to it, this is not a rezoning, this is a subdivision plat.
Right.
We might look at this differently if this was an SP rezoning for a subdivision that's asking for more development rights, but this is, the existing zoning allows for this, and the subdivision regulations allow for this, and even at the end of the day, if they had worked a plan to preserve those homes, there's nothing that would stop them from applying for a demolition permit tomorrow, and I think that demolition permit would ultimately have to be issued. So there's no protection, there's no overlay, historic zoning overlay on these, so even if they had incorporated those houses into this subdivision plat, a demolition permit could still be applied for and granted. And so at the end of the day, we felt like the setbacks from the street and from Lebanon Pike was an important factor in maintaining the character along this area of Millionaires Row.
Thank you. I'd just point out that that this is a little bit unusual situation to be discussing historic overlays or preservation, because it is essentially a subdivision. It is not a rezoning. It is not a place where you could say to the owners or the proposers, why don't we give you a little more here if you preserve this? It's a subdivision. It's zoned for what this developer wants to do. He just needs to meet certain standards and have it approved by us, which I think the support of the larger community and the whole weight of what we've heard today, while not perfect, I think the case has been made that they've done that. So, any other comments before I ask for a vote? Yes, Berkeley.
I'll just throw out one more observation. I mean, I think I agree with the thought process that has gone on here, and that it's not necessarily within our purview to require them to save a historic property, but it does look like the one that's the farthest to the right, that sits on two lots, if they so chose, of their own volition, maybe could be saved with just a little bit of an alteration of some side and left setbacks. So I just throw that possibility out there for creative architects to think about on down the line.
Nothing we would do today would preclude them taking that.
That's correct.
Is that right?
If the motion should pass, then they're going to have to submit a new plat because it'll require the roads being moved. And we'll certainly, the applicant's been great working with us so far to adjust to our recommendations and to the councilman's recommendations in response to the community's concerns. So I feel confident that we can try to get the setback to look even more consistent, if that's, I believe, what I hear from Commissioner.
There's no more discussion. All those in favor of the motion on the floor vote aye. Aye. All those opposed vote no.
No.
It has passed. Thank you very much. Next order of business. Number 9. Okay. We are moving on with our agenda, and I know most folks are leaving now, but if you could leave quickly and quietly, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
While we're seeing folks leaving about number 9, there's been a request that we defer that indefinitely. Is there anyone in the left here? No, defer number 9. Defer number 9. By the owner? Is that correct? The applicant? Is there anyone with any concern about that deferral indefinitely?
The only thing I'm here for is I'm speaking for another person who's not able to be here.
Okay. Lauren Bush?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
I know her. Well, I think the defer indefinitely would give her the opportunity to have her say. Is that?
With an indefinite deferral, new notices will be required to be sent out. And
yes, this is the only thing that she said to stress in a calm manner. Said stress rezoning this 90-year-old home sets a bad precedent.
Okay.
For the original hearing, the sign was not up 10 business days.
All right. So I suspect she'll be pleased that we're not taking action today then.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. So without objection, we will defer number 9 indefinitely.
Make a motion. It has to be approved by
It has to be approved by the commission. Yes, that's what you have when you have a lawyer in charge of the commission. There's been a motion and a second that we defer this indefinitely. All in favor, vote aye. Aye. All opposed, vote no. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And Chairman, if we can go ahead and take up another item while we have this pause. I believe that the person that requested to speak on item number 15 has withdrawn their request, and it was supposed to be on the consent agenda. So if you'd like to go ahead and take that up.
All right. Item 15 is the Cityside Center SP. If there is no one here who has an objection to us putting this back on the consent agenda, then I will entertain that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, vote no. It passes. And our next item, I've completely forgotten where we are. So
The only remaining items are 11A and 11B.
Okay. Why don't we start with 11A?
And we'll bid a farewell to Commissioner Tibbs.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is my first time presenting to you. My name is Anna Greider. I'm in Community Plans, and I started in December, but this is my first opportunity to present.
Welcome. Good luck.
Okay. Item 11A is a request to amend the East Nashville Community Plan. This case has an associated zoning case that will be presented by Abby next. The request is to change the policy for the 7.7 acres shown here outlined in red at the northeast corner of South 7th Street and Lenore Street. The plan amendment is part of MDHA's Envision KC master plan. The request is to replace the existing Civic Policy with T4 Urban Mixed-Use Neighborhood Policy on the northern portion of the amendment area, currently blue, outlined in red, and to replace the existing T4 Urban Mixed-Use Neighborhood Policy with Civic Policy on the southern portion of the amendment area, currently purple, outlined in red. This request essentially switches the policy areas with each other to move mixed-use neighborhood development potential into the civic area and potential civic buildings into the mixed-use neighborhood area. For this case in community plans, we have focused on the policy. However, the foundation of this case is based primarily on the location of the educational facilities in the Envision KC master plan. So you will hear me refer to two schools during my presentation. One is the existing Kip Kirkpatrick Elementary School, shown on this slide outlined in red, and there are no proposed changes to the location of this school. The other school is the proposed new school to be located in Envision KC. The site that was approved with the adoption of the master plan in 2016 is outlined in white, and the proposed site, which is prompting this amendment request, is outlined in blue. Abby will be going into much more detail on these locations in the following presentation, but for context, we are discussing the location of a new school and if it should remain at the location outlined in white, the approved location, or move to the blue location. Staff is recommending disapproval of the amendment request. The two policy areas we are discussing switching in order to move the school site are Civic Policy and Urban Mixed-Use Neighborhood Policy. The primary intent of Civic Policy is to preserve and enhance publicly owned civic properties so that they can continue to serve public purposes over time, even if the specific purpose changes. Characteristics of civic areas mean that they include a broad variety of publicly owned properties, such as fire stations, libraries, police stations, and public schools. These buildings are often found at prominent locations, such as the intersections or termini of roads that provide a focal point in the area. Buildings are oriented to the street, with most parking behind or beside the building to preserve open space in front or to frame the street with the building. T4 Urban Mixed-Use Neighborhood Policy is intended to maintain and enhance and create urban mixed-use neighborhoods with a development pattern that contains a variety of housing, along with mixed-use, commercial, institutional, and even light industrial development. Characteristics of urban mixed-use neighborhoods include a diverse mix of moderate to high-density residential and ancillary non-residential uses. Buildings are regularly spaced, built to the back edge of the sidewalk with minimal spacing between, and a highly connected, complete street network. Shown here is the Envision KC master plan with the amendment area outlined in red, the approved location of this new school on the northern portion, and the proposed location on the southern portion. MDHA developed this master plan during a 3-year participatory planning process that involved a wide range of stakeholders, including more than 30 public meetings, a number of focus groups, and resident surveys that were conducted between March 2013 and June 2016. The master plan provides for the redevelopment of Casey Place into a vibrant mixed-income, mixed-use, walkable community. The design of the public realm within Casey Place is one of the most fundamental factors in creating a successful community. The balance and relationship of the proposed civic uses, largely located on the eastern end of the new Central Park, and the central green space in creating a sense of place is paramount to the success of the development. The civic area is envisioned as an interconnected network of open space, recreation, and services with convenient and safe access for all residents of Casey and the surrounding area to encourage physical activity and social interaction. Planning Department staff reflected the Envision Casey Master Plan in the East Nashville Community Plan component of the Nashville Next General Plan that was adopted by the Planning Commission in June of 2015. Since that time, Envision Casey's master planning and implementation process has continued to evolve and progress. 3 previous plan amendments for this area were approved by the Planning Commission in July and September of 2016 and in August of this year. As I mentioned at the beginning, the community plan amendment was requested in conjunction with a request for a specific plan amendment on the same properties, which will be presented next. This policy change is proposed in order to support that zoning amendment. In accordance with the rules and procedures for a major plan amendment, a community meeting was held on August 29th at the Martha O'Brien Center to coincide with MDHA's regularly scheduled Envision KC Town Hall meeting. Approximately 40 people attended, including the district council member, members of the development team, MDHA staff, and planning staff. Notices were mailed to property owners within 1,300 feet of the amendment area on August 16th, and the notice was posted on the Planning Department website. In addition, MDHA routinely notifies residents and interested parties when these meetings occur, and the Martha O'Brien Center had a call out to notify their patrons. Planning staff presented on the relevant policies and the process of a plan amendment. The development team then went into detail regarding the associated specific plan amendment. As a result, the majority of the feedback received during the meeting and that I'm going to report on now focused on the specifics that the development team presented with regards to the location of the new school. These comments are being driven by the policy amendment request. Some meeting attendees voiced support for the requested relocation of the proposed school site, citing that space and separation between the schools will be a positive for each school in maintaining their own identities, that Nashville currently does not have 2 charter schools sited next to each other, and that separating pedestrian, bus, and car traffic will reduce congestion and parking demand in the area. Other attendees voiced opposition to the requested relocation of the proposed school site, citing the burdensome nature of the increased walking distance and topography change for young students to navigate from the relocated site to the planned public park, safety concerns of young students with the addition of crossing a street to get to the planned public park, the loss of the potential for mutual benefit of shared resources such as recreation space and infrastructure, the preference to keep the community campus area identified in the master plan as an undisrupted whole and the central heart of the Casey area in order to promote community, the anticipated limitations on future shared resources and adaptive reuse of the sites should they be separated, and the desire to maintain the master plan as developed during the 3-year planning process. Staff believes that permitting the plan amendment could have adverse effects on the Envision Casey master plan and the neighborhood as a whole for the following 4 reasons: policy, physical planning, economic, and urban design. Number 1, with policy. Civic Policy was placed in the current location in order to ensure the civic buildings in Envision Casey are found at prominent, highly visible, and accessible locations in a central community campus. Moving the Civic Policy to a less visible and accessible location breaks up the community campus and places the school in a location that does not meet the policy intent and characteristics of Civic Policy. Number 2, physical planning. There is a topography change of more than 50 feet of elevation between the proposed school location and the Central Park. It will be more challenging to walk to the park, library, community center, and health clinic from the proposed school location than the current location, particularly for young children. Additionally, replacing the Civic Policy with mixed-use neighborhood policy will potentially drive a wedge between the proposed school and the park and community facilities. Future development within the proposed mixed-use neighborhood policy could detract from the cohesion of the cluster of civic buildings proposed in the Envision Casey plan. The wedge of development will also require students and faculty to walk greater distances from the proposed school location to the park and community facilities. Finally, the proposed change would require a street crossing, whereas the current Civic Policy would allow direct pedestrian access to the park and community services from all civic users in the area without the need to cross a street. Number 3, urban design. Maintaining the Civic Policy in its current location will yield the community campus sought by Envision Casey. The campus is the green area in the center of the image, and its creation will help achieve the following urban design goals: foster intellectual life and social interaction, provide access to a largely pedestrian group of users, create a sense of enclosure and gathering spaces between civic buildings, take advantage of synergies created by direct relationships among civic buildings, uses, and public open spaces, help ensure safety and security of students and employees and visitors who are coming to the park and community facilities. And finally, number 4, addressing economics. One of the key goals of Envision Casey is to create a sustainable and financially viable development. The current Civic Policy promotes a balanced and cohesive development pattern that would enable shared facilities and resources that meet the community's short-term and long-term needs. It also expands the potential for adaptive reuse of all civic properties in the community campus area that would support other community goals. Staff recognizes that Envision Casey was not intended to be static. Future community plan amendments may be necessary to respond to the diverse and dynamic community needs associated with the implementation of a redevelopment project of this magnitude. The applicant's request does not represent such a need. Staff has determined that the request is not appropriate or consistent with the goals and vision of the Envision Casey Master Plan or the planning policies and principles of Nashville Next. Staff recommends maintaining the community campus area of the master plan as currently reflected in the East Nashville Community Plan. Therefore, staff recommends disapproval of the amendment request. Abby will now present the rezoning case.
But we present them at the same time.
Item 11B is being heard in conjunction with the community plan amendment that Anna just presented. This is a request for a specific plan amendment on a portion of properties located at 701 and 711 South 7th Street, zone specific plan mixed use, and within the Casey redevelopment district on approximately 15.21 acres to relocate the proposed school location between Dew and Lenore Street. Staff recommendation is to disapprove. The site is highlighted on the screen. Specific plan mixed use is a zoning district category that provides for additional flexibility of design to implement the specific details of the general plan. The Casey Place SP includes a mixture of residential in addition to office and/or commercial and civic uses. The existing land use policies include civic on the north half of the site, and urban mixed-use neighborhood on the south half of the site. There's also a small portion of conservation on the southeastern corner of the site. This proposal is inconsistent with the existing land use policy boundary designations, which reflect approximately 3 years of master planning and public input. The previously approved school site is located in Civic Policy, adjacent to other civic and institutional uses. It is also adjacent to a central park, which Anna explained is appropriate and beneficial for the students in the neighborhood. The amendment proposes to extend the Civic Policy to the south in an area currently designated as T4 mixed-use neighborhood, and then relocate the T4 mixed-use neighborhood to the central portion of the existing Civic Policy, closest to the existing residential neighborhood to the east. This policy shift does not reflect the intent of the land use policies within the Casey Place SP, including a cohesive development pattern and improving neighborhood amenities. As explained in the previous presentation, the Casey Place SP was approved in 2016 to permit a mixed-use development on various properties located southeast of Shelby Avenue. The Casey Place SP includes a centrally located civic subdistrict of park space, civic space, limited commercial, and a proposed school site that connects to the existing neighborhood. This proposal would amend the proposed school site located to the south outside of the existing civic subdistrict. The amendment area is located in red. This close-up shows the amendment area with the school buildings outlined in blue. The amendment proposes to relocate the previously approved school north of Dew Street to the south along Lenore Street. The previously approved school location is part of a new community services campus that provides health and social, economic, and educational support to existing and proposed residents. The campus clusters existing resources such as the Martha O'Brien Center, located here, the existing KIPP Kirkpatrick Elementary School over here, the MDHA office, and other existing resources, along with proposed services including a community center located here, a library, a health center, and an additional school. This campus includes a new park that is centrally located on the site, highlighted in green here, connecting a network of open spaces with the community. The preliminary SP includes 4 subdistricts. Each subdistrict includes standards for permitted uses and development standards. This slide shows the approved school site location. The approved school buildings are outlined in blue and are close to the Central Park space to the north. The approved school site is located north of Dew Street between Martha O'Brien and the proposed health clinic, introducing new educational opportunities in an easily known and accessible location. The school buildings are oriented towards the new Central Park to the north here and the existing KIPP Elementary School, appropriately transitioning the civic subdistrict to the existing neighborhood to the east. The SP amendment proposes to relocate the school to the south along Lenore Street and extend the civic subdistrict in this area as well. The school would front Lenore Street, turning its back on the community service campus. The western side of the buildings would front 7th Street, which is intended for higher intensity residential and limited commercial uses. A portion of the civic subdistrict area bordering the KIPP Elementary School will be replaced with the Neighborhood Edge subdistrict to accommodate residential development, disrupting the transition of those civic and institutional uses to the existing neighborhood. The relocated school site is located farther away than the remainder of the community facilities located to the north, which will require the students to walk a further distance to access the new campus and related amenities. The new site also has limited open space on site. The open spaces and playgrounds, which are shown with this sun symbol, are identified on the plan, and The available open space may introduce new conflict points if the students have to cross the street to access this meaningful open space. The topography also slopes down from the central campus to Lenore Street, which may further impede accessibility and overall safety. By comparison, this is the approved school site location. The grade is relatively consistent in here among the community service campus, and the open spaces and playgrounds are centrally located, where opportunities for conflict are more limited. This is the street network plan, which is provided just to show you that the street network remains unchanged as it was previously approved. Dew Street comes in here and connects through to 6th Street on the original and on this proposal as well, so there's no change there. This is a corner from looking at the northeast corner of South 7th and Lenore Street, looking north. So this is the bottom of 7th right here, and you're kind of looking up the hill to where the central campus will be. And this is the opposite end, the Martha O'Brien Center's to your left, and we're on top of 7th Street looking down. The location of a central campus and park are an integral part of the Casey Place SP and reflect the vision of the Envision Casey Master Plan. The previously approved community service campus and school location provide critical services to the community, purposefully transitioning to the neighborhood. Therefore, staff's recommendation is to disapprove.
Thank you. So we have heard the two presentations that are related. We now open the public hearing. The applicant gets to speak first, but we'll vote on these separately, although we heard the staff presentation together. So the applicant gets to present up 10 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you. Jim Harbison, Executive Director, MDHA, 701 South 6th Street. I'll try to provide some context here. There's pieces of this that probably bear on the problem that would be useful to you. We began this planning process before I came to MDHA in March of 2013, finished in June of 2015. In the interim, a school was approved for the area called the Explorer School that is run by Martha O'Brien, which is on the campus already. They listed their address for the school as their site, the Martha O'Brien site. So all along, in their mind and in ours, that school was going to be located in the immediate proximity. When we did all the surveys and talking with the residents, among the two top items in every survey is safety and education. And as we were creating infill and going to mixed-use living to deconcentrate poverty, we're moving from 963 families to just over 2,500. So that increase in families drives the need for another school. The school location in the original plan was satisfactory to all, we thought, until roughly this time a year ago. And as Councilmember Allen may remember, we spent 3 hours in front of council, and to resolve the council meeting, I was directly requested by members of the council, specifically Councilmember Cooper, Councilmember Kendall, Councilmember Rosenberg, to seek a resolution with Ms. Shepard of the location of the school, because the adjacent schools was deemed to be inappropriate. I've worked for a year with various parties, with school board members, our constituents in the community advisory group, and the site that's been chosen does have a topographic differential between the two, and it's intentionally chosen to be there so those two schools don't see each other. The distance between the new school and the new location we're requesting, the previous location, is very small. I walked it tonight. You can walk it in about a minute and a half. It's about 55 paces. Now, that does impact on small school children. We've addressed that in the rework of the plan. In the interim of all this discussion, Kirkpatrick, which was a family school in the natural metro setup, moved to become a charter. That was after the approval of Martha O'Brien as a charter. So this issue of having two charter schools next to each other only arose in the spring of 2016 with the approval of Kip Kirkpatrick to move in. So this issue for us really boiled down to two important factors to engage with the public. And while I'll support any decision you make tonight, I don't envy your decision because you're trying to gauge, as we do, as we develop this, what the public desires. And there are really two issues. Do you believe the distance, an additional 150 to 200 feet, severely impacts the operation of a charter school and its location in the overall plan? We do not. We've been working this a long time. Our architects have accommodated it. Or do you believe that having two charter schools immediately looking at each other will inhibit the ability for better education in the community? Clearly for us, as we had voices, very loud voices in the community that sought and asked us to work this out, as the school board had asked us to work this out, as key leadership in the senior parts of the mayor's office asked to work this out. We believe that deconflicting the location of the two schools is the more important issue, and that the proximity of the school to the park and to amenities is more than satisfactory. More importantly, the operator of the school, Explorer School, believes that to be true. So I ask you tonight to consider this. We've been working at it a year. This site has many advantages for us. It's right on the thoroughfare. It does blend in with the community right next door to it. It provides access quickly to Martha O'Brien. It meets all the needs of the original master plan. And most importantly, it meets the pledge we made to deconflict a rather contentious meeting about a year ago in the council and to prevent council intervention in our plan by separating the schools with sufficient distance that all parties seem to be amenable to it. We'd like to reserve our last 3 minutes for any follow-up.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Zach Dufour. I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates.
Same presentation.
I'm representing MDHA as part of this plan amendment. I'd just like to comment on a few things that were in the staff report. One, we did try to maintain the entire civic area as a consistent civic area. So you see the old location of the school was a little north and east of Martha O'Brien Center, and now it's just immediately south of Martha O'Brien Center. Still maintains a consistent civic area, still adjacent to Martha O'Brien Center, which is adjacent to the public park. Street crossings were also brought up. I will say the entire Envision Casey development was designed and is part of the original approved SP to be a walkable and bikeable community. There's shared use paths throughout on street sections throughout the park. There's sidewalks. That was one of the first major goals that was identified as part of Envision Casey. We took that into consideration as part of the plan, and based on the street sections, 7th, which is just to the left of the screen of the school, would have a shared use, 12-foot shared use path off street that would allow the school property to connect alongside Martha O'Brien Center to Martha O'Brien Center and then continue beyond to connect into the park. Same thing on the other side. You see the right side of the school. Between the school and the low-density residential, there would also be a 12-foot shared use off-road path that would connect to the other side of Martha O'Brien Center and then continue on to the park. Those are obviously a little bit longer, as Mr. Harbinson mentioned in the original plan, those distances, but we still feel like that they're walkable and they'll be on safe facilities. We also designed the school site to have 3 separate, for different age groups, separate open spaces. One immediately to the left between the school and South 7th Street, one between the two schools, between the K through 5 and the 6 through 8, and then one to the right, which would be to the right side of the middle school, 6 through 8 on the side. Those are areas, I've got dimensions and some diagrams if anybody's curious to the size of those, but we did try to incorporate that based on the slightly increased distances. And again, crossing the street was also brought up. We feel like based on the number of shared use paths and sidewalks throughout this and trying to reconnect the grid as part of the Envision Casey process, there are going to be street crossings. There are going to be crosswalks. We have to design those to be safe We understand that this will be larger groups of children that have to cross the street, but we can certainly accommodate that with engineering measures, rapid flashing beacons, or signage, or even put up a push button with a signal to stop cars for when children actually go to cross the street to get to the park. So we feel like there are measures to address that, and with that, we'll reserve our last 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there persons who wish to speak in support of this proposal other than the MDHA? All right. We will be glad to hear from people speaking against at this point. Right?
Good afternoon. I'm Marcia Edwards. I'm the CEO of the Martha O'Brien Center and Schools. We operate Explore Community School, which is directed by Principal John Driscoll. So this is an unusual situation because we are in total support of all the work that MDHA has done on Envision Casey. We've been very proud to be their partner in that. And so we have been part of this conversation about how do we collaborate, how do we compromise and work together. But tonight, that's not actually what the task is. The task is what is the best for all the children. That's the question before us. So I'm going to speak to that. The original site is the site that was drawn by residents at the charrette that was run by Smith Key Architects, seems like many years ago. This original site is what residents chose. And that's important to me. When this issue of two schools close together came up, I was kind of surprised, honestly, because this is done all over the country. In California, you have schools that have the same playground. And we have schools in our town that are very close. Our other school, which is also a K-8 school, is in Inglewood, and it is literally around the corner from Inglewood Elementary. So this is done. It's just not been done in this scenario here. So we decided very quickly that we were going to make a conscious effort to be collaborative, to make sure that we were working together. But we did send out notifications saying this is an issue about a school, please come. One family came. Unfortunately, there's been some misunderstandings of late. But I want to talk a little bit about the argument that's been made that KIPP children are being disadvantaged by the location of Explore. Families in Casey are smart about education. They're not going to choose based on the building. They're going to choose on the basis of what is happening in that building. I was the president of KIPP Nashville. We were in Highland Heights. It was probably the worst school building in the city, and people came because of what's going on great.
Marcia, excuse me, but your time is up.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
It went by quickly,
so
but somebody else
But I do
might.
stand in opposition of this, though, in collaboration with the great work MDHA stuff. Thank you so much.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me. My name's John Driscoll. I am lucky enough to be the principal at Explore Community School. And at Explore, one of our core values is community. And so every day we work together to make our community a better place. And we're really excited to have the opportunity to work together with Casey residents and all the stakeholders to make our community better. And be one of the three excellent options that kids and families will be able to choose from between KIPP and Warner and ourselves. I think that Anna and Abby did a great job laying out why it's probably better for the school to stay at the original site. But just a little context about our school. We really focus on the whole child development. We want to go beyond just test scores. We give our kids really rich learning opportunities. Our kids get recess and what we call fitness and adventure every single day. And so having that access to the park is going to be really beneficial for all of the kids there. And I also wanted to speak to a couple of things that I had heard, may be challenges, because I think we have a great opportunity to collaborate to overcome any challenges that may come from two schools being kind of close to one another. And so one of the things I've heard is congestion. And I would like to point out, that our cars and buses will be using the South 7th Street, the other schools will be using South 9th. And I'm happy to adjust our start and dismissal times. We want to serve the community and make it work out. Another one I've heard is inequity, that since we are an optional school, that kids in Casey may not have the opportunity to get in. And we're actually working right now with the district to set up a geographic priority zone, because we don't serve as many kids from Casey as we would like right now, because we're out of the neighborhood, but we want to give them the first option to attend and explore. So at the end of the day, we're excited to be part of this process. We're excited to be part of Casey, regardless of where it ends up. And so we just look forward to getting started and being one of those great options for kids in Casey. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to be heard in opposition? I believe that we have how many, a little over 2 minutes? How long was it?
Well, 2 minutes all.
2 minutes is requested. It's all right. You guys have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Well, first I want to thank Doug and the staff. We've been working on this a lot for the last year, so thank you. First, I looked at the master plan. The specific location of the school, it's not easy to tell. I don't think you can say it was at any specific location. It is important to note that the Explore School application with the school board that was approved is for the Martha O'Brien campus. I think it comes down to two issues, and this is not one that we have a universally clear voice from our public or from our residents. I was with the residents last week. There's groups on both sides. My view, and what I believe I've heard, and this is somewhat anecdotal, is the residents generally support the new location. They like the isolation, they like the location, the access, but there's a significant group that does not. And most of those that are oriented with the new location are associated with KIPP Kirkpatrick. Those that support the previous location are associated more with Explore. We're somewhat caught in the middle trying to gauge the public request, but I view at my seat that when I have a large number of council members that weigh in, that want some action and something taken, we do our best MDHA to respond to them. And that's what we've done. It's taken us about 14 months to get to this point. Got to invest additional architectural fees. I'm not whining about it, but my sense is for the general public, trying to find the best and highest use, that the new location reflects that, primarily because there are very many people concerned about these two schools being next to each other. I'm sure there are national examples of that, but there's not any in Nashville. So we'd ask your consideration for the new site. I will just add in my final statement, should you disapprove, we will not forward this to council. We will be happy to live with professional decision here. If you approve it, so you recommend disapprove. If you disapprove it, we're not going forward. If you approve it, we will move forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Councilman, I was hoping I'd remember you, and there you are.
How quickly we forget. Thank you so much, Commissioners, for your time and attention to this matter. We come before you pretty regularly with really exciting updates on Casey as we're rolling it out, sometimes on minuscule matters and sometimes on grand matters. Just again, for context, the Envision Casey Master Plan has been developed over many community meetings over a large period of years. The master plan itself was published, I believe, in 2014, and with the discussion of schools in particular, that's been a fraught topic in Nashville for quite a few years now, particularly on the school choice issue. And I guess what I would say is that in 2014, when the master plan was originally published, at that time, Kirkpatrick School was a zoned elementary school, and what the community input showed is that they wanted another school next to the zoned elementary school, and we all, I think many of us would presume that what that would have meant at that time would have been a charter school next to a traditional school, and believe it or not, that at that time was not particularly contentious with regard to Envision Casey as much as that embroiled the rest of the county over school board elections generally. So at that time, it was not considered to be contentious to have a charter school next to a traditional school. The school board weighed in on the matter, and they approved a charter school for the Martha O'Brien location, including some others, but that in particular was not especially contentious, even as much as that topic is contentious. From my standpoint, this became contentious when it became two charter schools next to each other. And again, I would remind everyone that in this particular case, Kirkpatrick is a charter operator that's takes over a zoned population still, so it's not like a magnet school type of a charter school. But that's when this became contentious. It did generate some press interest. Some of our council colleagues had a joint committee meeting about that a while back. But even after that joint committee meeting, which took place maybe August or September last year, we came before this very body and presented a community plan amendment and a general SP that included having the school, which we all know that is the one that the school board approved, in that exact same location. And that did not generate a tremendous amount of public comment, either at the Planning Commission hearing or at the council public hearing when we passed the SP in December. So it is a little bit strange to be coming back here before this body, but I really do appreciate MDHA and everyone sort of working together. We have had some folks on both sides of the issue of co-locating two schools next to each other, and MDHA and myself and others in the community have worked really hard to make sure people are heard. As the council member for the area, it's my job to look at what the community feedback is, and the community feedback is split. So you get to make a planning decision and not a political decision, and you're probably grateful to be in that particular spot. But somewhat, it's the case that the split depends on which school one is sending children to or affiliated with. For the Explore families, a lot of the correspondence that I've seen has been from Explore families. They were really looking forward to having their school be constructed along the new Central Park, and they are concerned about it being moved off of that park, and that they felt that that was a big asset. In addition to the community plan, it'd be great to have this community park right outside of your child's elementary school, and they're concerned about that, and I think that's very valid. I also have heard from a number of Casey residents in particular who are parents at Kirkpatrick, and they, the feedback that they've given is that they have some concerns and would like the schools to be deconflicted, and I have to take that seriously. Although, you know, the traffic and a lot of those issues, I think it's really important to reiterate that regardless of where the school is located, it will be located off of Dew Street and not off of sort of 9th. So the traffic that exists to Kirkpatrick today will, in terms of car traffic, will never be mixed in with the traffic to the Explore School, regardless of the location that it's in. So I would have to say that the traffic issue is actually a moot point based on the actual details of the plan. And really kind of what it comes down to is the desire to deconflict the schools. And going back to the school choice issue, we've had charter schools to be approved in existing urban neighborhoods in particular, very close to existing schools for quite some time, and that is controversial as a topic. But what I described this as about a year ago is the idea of locating a new school in close proximity to an existing school. You know, are we really talking about distance? Do we need to look as a city at what is a minimum distance requirement? What is that? Or is, you know, the way I describe it is sort of this is the exception that proves the rule. What happens if you approve a school that is literally right next to an existing school? And I have to go back to say, well, number one, the school board themselves, which is the body that's elected to do that, decided to do that. And the community feedback itself for many years has shown that that's where people felt that it would make the most sense. So there are some issues, and I really want to work with my KIT parents and families and students. I end up, because my community feedback is split, as being a little bit agnostic. I think a really strong good faith effort's been made on the part of MDHA to find another site to put a school based on that feedback. From a planning standpoint, the decision you have to make is, has moving the elementary school, and not the middle school, which will still go next to Martha Bryan, but has moving the middle school off of this sort of Central Park to this new location, which has less advantages in terms of for a number of reasons, but including proximity to a park, has the design that MDHA and Kinley Horn, who are all very skilled, has that redesign sort of compensated for that with additional safety or community amenity features to sort of make up for that difference from the park, in addition to making up for that fairly radical change to a pretty consistent 3 to 4 years of community feedback. So I'm agnostic as to the decision, because I do have people on both sides. Y'all get to make a planning decision. I think we can make either work. I think that Explore and the Martha Bryan Center have shown that they will do anything that to serve this community. And I know a lot of Explore parents are really excited about being a part of Envision Casey, even if they don't live in Casey today. We've had a lot of Explore parents really participate in Envision Casey town halls and come down to be a part of that decision-making process to date. I think it's great that we have folks living in the broader East Nashville community that will intentionally send their children into the midst of Casey. I think that really shows how much community support there is for creating a mixed income community there. And that's different in some ways from the KIPP version of Kirkpatrick, because that's a zone school. So like that is their school they're going to go to unless they choose another one. But we do have families that are actually wanting to come into the Casey environment, and I think that's great. And the feedback that we've heard from those parents is that they feel like the original location is better for their children and is better aligned with the community planning. And so if we do change that, we need to provide a really good reason and a really good planning reason for why that was being done, rather than, maybe sentiment among parents about how well two schools can live next to each other. So that's where I'm at. I look forward to your discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. So we now turn to the commission for further discussion, questions, and I'm going to start with Commissioner Blackshear this time.
So the reason that you're now proposing to change the school sites is primarily because the two charter schools would be sited next to each other, and presumably parents from KIPP are afraid that people would not want to send their kids there because it's right next to a brand new pretty school. Okay.
Fair point. I wish Kip was here, but you were at the public meeting. That seemed to be the expression we got from many of the Kip parents, yes.
But it seems like the school, if Explorer was moved, it still wouldn't be far from KIPP. So, you would still have to deal with that same desire.
The difference in the site is the topography, which the staff discussed. There's a ridge, so you can't see each other. The lineal distance isn't much different than either side. This one at the new site's a little bit farther, but it's not much farther. And because of the topography, you can't physically see the two schools in each other.
Commissioner, I think it is worth pointing out that the new site is actually 50 feet below the site of where the park is, and 600 feet away, as opposed to directly on it. So the grade school kids would get to walk up that steep hill 600 feet to the park that they would otherwise be on with this current plan.
I guess my questions kind of lead me to the point that people will still know Explorer is there. Even if it's not visible from KIPP, obviously it's in the same neighborhood. They're really close to each other. It just seems like moving the schools apart create hardship, but doesn't really solve the issue that one new pretty school will be sited next to an existing school. I say all that to say, from a planning perspective, I don't see the benefit. I don't see any benefit really from a planning perspective of moving the school sites. I see the rationale from the KIPP parents, but I don't think that rationale is solved just by moving it to a very close but non-visible location from the school. So I would be in favor of the staff's recommendation of disapproval, but I'm interested in hearing the other commissioners.
Commissioner Gobble?
Well, first of all, I want to compliment everybody that's been involved in Envision Casey. I think it's going to be an outstanding and a very positive influence on an area over there that can really use that. And I like to applaud their efforts. The Explorer School, is it K through 8? I'm confused. Yes. Okay. And then the Kirkpatrick School is also K through 4. And then the road, I've forgotten what the name of the road is. If you move it to the location that's proposed, the K through 8 would have to get go across that one street to get to the park. But if, do what?
It's called Dew Street.
Dew Street, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But if it were in the original location, they would not have to.
Correct.
You know, as the grandparents of some kids that would fall into that category, getting them to cross the street correctly is a challenge. And I do struggle with that part of it. I think, you know, if that park, that linear park is such an important part of this whole development, and being that, I mean, I'm certainly sympathetic to KIPP. I think they do a phenomenal job, as does Martha O'Brien. And I think, but that one thing alone is causing me a lot of heartburn, much less, I think the kids could run up the hill. I'm not sure the teachers or parents, or certainly grandparents could, but I'm inclined for disapproval as well. So.
All right. Commissioner Haynes.
Great cities have aggregated civic spaces, including schools next to one another. And I think the original plan, which a ton of very talented people spent time on, is the right plan. And the thought of sending children up a hill 50 feet with an incline makes no sense. And Councilman Withers, you said it yourself, our decision is based on planning and not politics and not the school board. So I'm going to support staff's recommendations.
Figuring out how to turn it on.
Commissioner.
I guess I'm a little perplexed about this because, and I thank you for separating the political hat from the planning hat. And when you look at it, because that's over my pay grade, but when you look at planning, one of the newest trends in city development is what we call ecosystems, where people literally get along. There's an efficiency of sharing resources. There is an ability to really look at one another as cooperative, and that they all grow. In a city that is really stretching for all resources, even though we're growing as fast, sharing libraries, sharing play spaces, makes no sense not to do that from a planning perspective. I also think that there truly is efficiency gains when we can share common spaces. So from a planning perspective, it makes no sense to me. From a neighborhood perspective, I've gotten to know people really well that live in this little neighborhood right now around Lenore, around Dew Street, and they're so excited about having new homes, new neighbors built down here by the foot of the hill. So I don't know if they've even been included in any conversations about not having neighbors. And so I would really think that from a planning perspective, that's not a good thing to do, is to suddenly all these neighbors that are looking for new homes to be built next to them suddenly have it changed. So for that, I would go along wholeheartedly with the staff recommendation.
Councilmember.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure that Valor Academy and Valor something sit there right next to each other, two middle school. Can anybody confirm that? I should have. Thank you. That was my understanding. They face the same parking lot. So there is precedent in Nashville. I was kind of fascinated to discover that, and it seems to have worked out well there. So it's as other council members have said, it's hard to have that be the primary reason to go from what seems like good planning to not quite as good planning. And then I just had another question about shared resources. Other than the park, are there other resources from the Martha O'Brien Center, like cafeteria or something that are shared? Yes. Okay, so other resources in addition to that.
Gym and the commercial kitchen. The commercial kitchen adds $1 million if it has to be replicated. We already own one.
Right.
But you can't transport food unless it's in refrigerated trucks that distance.
That's useful to know as well. I think that's really important. My biggest concern had been the traffic issue, and it sounds like that is service from 7th for one school and 9th from the other, regardless of this location. So I think I'm satisfied with that one. I appreciate the tremendous work that has been done to satisfy requests that were raised by council members, and I think y'all have done yeoman's duty to try to come up with a plan within the property that you own. To try to do it in a way that could still allow some kind of sharing of resources. But it sure seems like the community kind of found the best fit to start with. So I would make a motion that we recommend staff's motion or recommendation of disapproval.
Is there a second? Oh, right, we do have two items, and we're
Yes, I'm
voting
just doing this
separately.
on
So this
11A.
would be 11A, which is, again, staff, which part of it?
11A is the,
Plan amendment.
the plan amendment. It has to be in that order.
All right. I think we've probably had lots of discussion at a very high level. I'm totally impressed with this discussion, and I'm happy to call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to disapprove, is that what we call it? Disapprove?
It's a motion to recommend approval of staff's recommendation of disapproval.
Yeah, that right there, right there. Say aye. Aye. All opposed? So that gets us to B, or do we do B in light of A?
Yes, you still need to do B.
Do we renew your motion on that, Councilmember?
Staff's recommendation to disapprove.
Your second? Any discussion? All those in favor of that motion to disapprove, to you know, what he said, approve staff recommendation, please vote aye. Aye. All those opposed, vote no. The ayes have it, and the matter is disapproved, or something like that.
Yeah, Chairman, if I could take just a moment, I don't want to leave the community with the wrong impression that the MDHA and the Planning Department don't work closely together on all these issues. We worked extraordinarily close on all of these issues. I just think that MDHA was put in an almost impossible position in this case, and so I really appreciate all their work with us.
Well, that's the end of that item, and I think we're moving on then to other less. Let's see.
Go through the last few items there.
Am I right about this?
So we're on item 25. Or no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's other
we're on
business.
26.
All right. If everyone could stay with us just for the other business, we're on item 26 on page 10, which is Historic Zoning Commission report, and we don't have that today. They left. Board of Parks and Recreation report. Who would that be?
Well, boy, am I really glad to be reporting on this. I attended my first meeting Tuesday.
You let them, wait a minute, you let them elect you to this?
Yes, I was duly elected by Mr. Sloan.
All right, go right ahead.
The first meeting was really exciting. It was 2 hours in length. We heard from a lot of fun people, and we have a lot of interesting topics that we have to resolve over the next few months.
With a lot more 2-hour meetings, is that it? Is that the end of your report?
End of my report.
Great, all right. Executive committee report?
I don't think the executive.
No, I don't think we have a executive.
No report.
Okay, good. And let's see, we've done the director's report. Is there a legislative report?
Yes, I'll say one thing. The council has a proposed change to our rules that would be involved with how the CIB is presented to the Metro Council, and I presume that they've worked very closely with you on this, Doug, so you may be able to describe this better than I can.
Yes, we have worked closely. Council Lady Weiner headed up a group that was looking at how to give the council more time to deliberate over the capital improvements budget. Right now, it is in the middle of the rest of the budget process, and whether it is matters that each one of the district council members wants to bring to the table for the capital improvements budget, or the various items that the departments bring, it doesn't current system doesn't allow for a lot of deliberation and discussion over those issues and understanding the prioritization of the capital improvements budget that's been submitted. So what we try to do is create a process where we will receive all of the recommendations from the various district council members in the fall. I don't know that we've set the exact dates, but
October sometime.
Okay, so in the bill that a date is set for them to submit their suggested projects to the commission and then to the department. And then what we do is do a review of each one of those recommendations and analyze them just like we would any of the department's capital improvements items, and then give that feedback back to the council, and give also hopefully some direction that if a particular project doesn't rate very well, how that you might improve that through connecting it with other projects or other ways that maybe that project isn't picking up on some of the other points that Nashville Next tries to encourage, and trying to really help them improve those projects and the chances of getting funded. Then those projects are included in an analysis with all the department projects, and then a final capital improvements budget is put together and submitted to the administration, who then will go through the regular process of reducing that to a submission back to the council. But it does allow for opportunity for that discussion that we would not otherwise have the time to do.
I want to just go on record as really commending the staff for going toward that triple bottom line type of budgeting process. It's not easy. Very few cities have chosen to do it, but when they did, it's just a very dynamic, wonderful tool. And I just want to go on record, anything we can do to support that, let us know.
Thank you. And then my final piece of report is the council will be electing a new chair for the planning committee. So this is my last meeting. But I have a banana. Thank you. We all went in together. I appreciate that.
I didn't realize this would be the last one.
Well, theoretically, the election would have happened very soon, but it's been forestalled. But I have a sister cities trip, so I will miss my last meeting. I apologize for that. But if you want to get me a cake, I'll come back. I'll come back later.
So do we know who the possible suspects are?
So far, there's one nominee, and I expect he will be elected. So, Bednay is up for election. So I've loved serving on this group. I will miss y'all. I will not miss the very long meetings, but the deliberation has been really great, and I certainly appreciate all the thoughtfulness that goes into this. So I'll miss you, Pearl. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that we're about done because we can read the calendar of upcoming events. So without objection, I'd say we're adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.